So, like I was a student. I went to school forever because I loved it, and I was masochistic that way. But when I realized that, wait a minute, I could be out kind of starting businesses and helping people and employing people, just changed the way I thought about the world. I think a lot of ways. One is AI can help just because it's kind of a better search. It's kind of a more conversational search. You can sort of just have a conversation. This is what I care about. What should I look at? And you can actually have that conversation with this thing that's interpolating all this data in the world. Like, now, an AI is not a human. It's not like you're having a conversation with a person. And you don't spend all your time with the AI. Actually get out and engage with other humans for sure. But it can help you do that, actually. It can help give you understand yourself, understand what you care about, understand what the world looks like, give you ideas about, well, let's see, well, here are my skills, here are things I'm interested in, how can I make that, how can I make my career better, how can I make, maybe there's a company to build, maybe there's a product to build. I think it can absolutely help people do companies more quickly. Now, you'll then need some help, because every company ultimately spends money first before it makes any money. I could call it J-curve. You know, so you can go like this, and hopefully it'll go back up like this and make money someday. Some companies actually, and even the big ones, end up going farther and farther and farther. You're like, oh, that company's worth so much, they raised a bunch of money, they're still not making money. OpenAI and ChatGPT, the company behind ChatGPT is OpenAI, they're still not making money. In fact, they're losing money. They're basically subsidizing all of our usage of AI. They're just paying for that because they're not charging enough to actually make any money on it. Eventually, if a company doesn't make money, it goes out of business. But every company has to do this. And that's actually one of the challenges, is getting enough capital. Savings from somewhere to start your business. And it could be, maybe it's only $10,000, maybe it's $10 million. But you got to figure out how to organize that. AI can help you too, just by building networks and connections with people who can maybe give you that startup capital.
Yeah. In your view, what does it mean for AI to augment human ability rather than replace it, especially when it comes to students and learning?
Yeah, I love this conversation. I don't know, I know all of you have used AI in your classes. I don't know if your teachers are here and they want to admit that, but I actually think classes should be designed for you to use AI. Like, it shouldn't be something you're preventing people to use. Because right now, there's a lot of hype around AI, and many people, actually, I'd love, maybe really, how many are excited about AI? Raise your hand if you're like, oh, I think it's going to be great, the world's going to be an awesome place. Only a few people want to admit that, huh? Interesting. Okay, how many are actually nervous about it? Like, worried about this dystopian future that's going to come because of AI? There's actually more of you there, like, which is not uncommon, actually. My wife, I've been married for 32 years. Highly recommend, actually, having friends, socializing. One thing I hope is that I fear that AI is causing us to not socialize enough, because it's so important to build those deep relationships with people and create your future family, your future network, which can be of all kinds, but just those connections are really important. Relationships matter more than anything. My wife's a little scared of AI, right? So she kind of says, oh, AI is going to take over the world, it's going to make us nervous. I think there are dystopian futures for AI. It is. AI could be a dystopian future. To me, the difference is who controls it. Like, AI is just a technology. It's literally just an algorithm. It's really matrix multiplication. It's a bunch of numbers being computed in order to interpolate a bunch of data. That's all that's happening. And when you realize what it is, you go, okay, wait, this shouldn't scare me at all. But what can scare you is if it's incorporating data that you didn't want anybody to have, or if it's taking information and making a really great prediction and that's in the hands of somebody that's using that to manipulate you. So the problem is really who owns that capability and how distributed that information is to everybody else. So the opportunity in my mind is to get that widely distributed, not just have AI controlled by 6 companies and 4 very large organizations. What we need is to make sure this capability is in the hands of millions, even billions of people. And then it just becomes a tool that helps everybody live their life better. So it just augments, I say this all the time, to me, AI is really augmented intelligence. It should be used that way. Now, will there come a day when intelligent machines can reason, can be actually more like a human instead of right now they're kind of augmenting capability? Maybe, I don't know. We need a breakthrough for that to happen. So right now they are just a tool to help regular people, all of us, live our lives better. And they're just a tool. Now, you know, there are bad people in the world too. Like, just even without AI, every time technology emerges, people can use it for bad things. And that's true for AI as it is for anything else. And so it takes good people. And, you know, I've only just been around, I'm just a little older than y'all. I'm really the same as you, I've just been around a little longer. And I've been able to travel all over the world, meet hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even millions in groups and aggregate. But we're all similar. And most people, in fact, everybody is really good, just sometimes a little bad. Like everyone's really actually good most of the time and sometimes a little bad. And the problem is you just don't want that bad part to be dominant. And so how do we help AI amplify the good in us and not amplify the bad in us? I think that's the real question.
And sort of continuing on that, what skills do you think people like you, or just if anybody here wants to go into the field of AI, what type of skills do employers look for?
That's a good question. So I think the good news is a wide variety of skills. Because I think what's going to happen is AI enables people with interest in their passion, whether it's, how many, I don't know, just who's here actually in this group. Whose favorite class in school is math or science? Okay, I'd raise my hand, that's me, I'm kind of a nerd that way. All right, whose favorite is like, let's say physical education, dance, athletics? Nobody's here from that group, okay. What about music? Music, theater, band? Okay, great. What about English, writing, drama, English, writing, art? Yeah, we're all different. We all have our passions that are different. And the good news is, AI can actually amplify whatever it is you like. It can make you stronger, and there will be an employer who wants you to use AI to help you do what you do better. I think that's the good news. AI is not just going to be a specific thing. It's going to be a tool that helps us all do better in whatever job we're doing. There's a comic I refer to all the time. People are worried about, oh, AI is going to replace me. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is AI, you'll be replaced, or you'll have a job that somebody knows how to use AI. You'll be replaced not by AI, but by somebody who knows how to use it. So you get to use it, and there's a ton of opportunity. Now, if you want to actually get into the practice of building the AI itself, then computers. You got to know a combination. It could be it's actually coming from multiple sectors. I've met lots of people who do AI research. They don't come from one background only. There's not like one true path to AI research. But they do typically come from either hard science, they've done a lot of math, they've done a lot of science, or they've done a lot of computers. Those are typically the area where it comes. So learn math. There's a lot to learn. And that's how you're going to be able to use AI yourself. Sorry, build AI. If you want to use it, everybody can do that. And that's what's cool. I think the big opportunity of AI is actually making computers easier to use. You can talk to them now. Something you do with your phones all the time. Our phones have become this thing that interact with much more easily. That's going to get easier and easier and easier. I look forward to a world when it's even just fabric of computing is around, there's screens everywhere, and I can just interact with the screens. We have a lot of devices around, but they're still not configured very well. There's still a lot of pain in configuring your TV or your car or all these little devices that, oh yeah, how do I make this work right? It doesn't quite work right, kind of does. So you have to go through some menu item to click and configure it. I think AI will help us actually make just computing configurability much, much easier. It'll probably take 5 years though before that happens. 5 to 10 because devices have a little shelf life in their lives.
So you said something very interesting, and that is that people will not be replaced by AI, they will be replaced by people who know how to use it.
Yep.
What does using it look like?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think it varies. It evolves, right? Right now, using it means that you know the website to go to, right? And you know how to enter what we call prompts. Prompt engineering right now is using AI well means using good prompts. It's a lot like when Google first came out, right? And that's when I was. It was actually after where you are. Google came out when I was a graduate student. But I learned very quickly that, how I use Google mattered. I could put a search term in, but then I really need to keep evolving what I search for. If I search for the wrong things, I wouldn't get answers to my questions. But if I ask a better question, I get answers to my questions. AI is similar right now. How you actually prompt it can matter. If you ever just do this experiment, you can actually put a prompt in. You'll actually get a different answer every time because of a little randomness and how it responds to you. But how you ask the question will absolutely inform what the AI tells you. In fact, these days, the AIs, the particular big AIs from Anthropic, Perplexity, and ChatGPT, OpenAI, they're kind of becoming much, much more sycophantic. Like to get your user, they're sort of they're telling you what you want to hear so that you stay with it. You know, similar reason why your social media keeps giving you feeds and stuff you pay attention to. The danger of this is we don't need a world where we just have yes people. It's actually not great to be around people that just tell you yes all the time, just reinforce your beliefs that may not be perfect yet. In fact, I guarantee all of us have beliefs that aren't perfect. That's just the nature of reality. All of us have stuff that we just don't, we're not thinking correctly about it. Me too. We need someone to help us with that. That's actually why interacting with a human is so important, and why we need a diversity of folks in our network. Because just listening to other people will help us update our ability to survive and to thrive in the world. So AI is part of that fabric.
Moving on to our next question. With AI doing so much of the work, what would you say are some of the most important human skills that students should protect and strengthen instead of outsourcing?
Good question. Yeah, what should you actually make sure you can do well? So prompt engineering is one for helping interact with AI. Just the ability to listen to somebody. Actually, if there's one thing I would say to develop right now is your willingness, ability, skill in listening to somebody else. You know, hearing them, engaging with them, listening to what they're saying, trying to empathize with them. So that empathy skill, super important to really connect with others. And the reason I say that is because that's going to directly lead to your future happiness, your future enthusiasm and productivity in life. And happiness in life is how. And the good news is you don't have to. You don't have to connect with 1 million people. You don't have to connect with 1,000 people. Maybe not even 100. If you just have, a group of people that you really connect well with, that's how humans have thrived for centuries. That's how work leaders thrive. So developing that ability to connect with others in authentic ways. I think developing your physical capability, whatever passion you have, there's lots of ways to get excited about the world, sports, art, writing, like developing that interest. There's a lot of things in life that initially is boring, right? I'm somebody who, I hated classical music when I was a kid. I thought, it goes wrong, it goes so boring, right? And it took actually until I listened to it for a while, and then I love it now because it's a learning curve. Very similar to literature, very similar to books. I would say developing your curiosity, your willingness to stick with something. You don't have to stick with something forever. I mean, you might try and go, that's not for me, but give it a few iterations. Give it a few iterations, especially if it's something that a lot of other people like. Give it a few iterations before you just toss it out. So I think that ability to be persistent. I guess that's the final one is just the willingness to be persistent and work at things. And I know all of us have a different spectrum of that, like, from scatterbrain ADHD to just boring, just the same thing forever. Just that ability to be persistent and not just give up quickly is so critical if you think about what you're trying to develop.
Thank you for that. And wait, can you all hear me? Does my mic turn on?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. What do you think it means to be smart in the future?
Wow, that's a loaded question. What does it mean to be smart in the future? What does it mean to be smart now? Get good GPA, get a smart class rank. Actually, this is an important topic for me. For a long, long time, I've thought about this because I have lots of people I know who have different skills than me, and I love them. I think they're amazing. If you think about human capability, right? How many dimensions is it, right? How many axes? How many attributes are you going to list if you think, what are the ways somebody can be smart? Oh, that person is street smart. That person's people smart. That person's math smart. That person's English smart. Like the very first principle of wisdom, I think, is recognizing that smart is a multidimensional, high-dimensional concept. And therefore, because of that, there's actually no way to determine order. Just think of us in this room. Who's well, here we have the front of the room, right? But we have lots of dimensions that talk about up and down, is it left and right, is it forward and back? Which is the right ordering of the space? There is no ordering of smartness. There's just different regions of smartness. So what are the most important things in the future? That's a great question. I'm not sure I know the answer to that, honestly. I would say, I think, if I think about what you need to learn about, the ability to think logically, because right now, I would say what AI is doing is it's massively trying to manipulate every one of us here are being massively manipulated by algorithms and by AI. Why? Trying to get you to believe a thing so that it benefits somebody else. Right? This is happening right now, all the time, on our feeds, on our news media. There's a lot of basically people who already have a lot of money trying to convince you to get into their camp and keep making them rich. Right? And it's not a left versus right thing, it's everything. Everybody's doing that. Right? To avoid that, you have to be able to think logically and critically. Right? And I would say that's one thing that school tries to prepare you for, but it's tough. It's tough. So logic and critical thinking are really critical areas. Another one is actually uncertainty reasoning, probability theory. How many here know what Bayes' rule is? Maybe you know what Bayes' rule is. Okay, homework. Everybody, go learn what that is today, tonight, right now. Bayes' rule, it turns out, should be taught in kindergarten, honestly. We should, like 8th grade, everybody should know the basics of probabilistic thinking. The reason is because fundamentally, as humans, we are wired to live in tribes of about 150 to 200 people. Like, that's what our biology is geared for. We don't have to learn a thing. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're born, you'll be successful living in a tribe of about that size. Right? But we don't live in that kind of tribe anymore, right? We live in an interconnected global economy of billions of people. But we are completely unprepared for that. The only way that has existed is actually human intellect and the ability to create abstractions and learn those abstractions. So we're not doing a great job of teaching ourselves how to live in a society like that. And some of these key things that help us do that, because right now, without Bayes' rule, without logical thinking, you're easily manipulated. There's a study done where doctors, and these are doctors, they make incorrect assessments about just medical data because Bayes' rule is not intuitive. You have to learn it. When you learn it, then you can do it. It still feels like, oh, that's not what I would expect. Once you have that experience a few times, you start to realize, oh, this is something I gotta learn this. So probability theory, Bayes' rule is just one piece of that. So probability theory, you've got to learn probability theory. You've got to learn to think critically and logically. Those are really big for me, I think. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, that sounds useful.
Yeah, I would ask that question actually. The more you can learn about what separates you right now as a person who can live in a tribe, like our ancestors did, from a person that can live in an interconnected economy of billions of people. What are those things you got to know about? Oh, the other thing, you got to understand market. You got to understand why markets matter, why ownership matters, why you cannot actually allocate resources with a bureaucracy. You cannot actually allocate resources with a tribal leader. You can do that on a small scale, but we live in an interconnected economy where none of us can live without all the stuff that is made by millions of other people. And the only way that is allocated, even remotely, possibly, is actually market forces, market value. And that's not, again, that's a thing that we don't really get. I didn't get it until I was 30 years old. And my whole life, I didn't take a single economics course. And I'm not saying that, you'll take a bunch of economics courses and some of them will be fine, some will be crazy, some will be weird. But there's that fundamental question of how to actually exchange with people and how does scarcity be distributed in a global society. That's an important thing to learn.
So one thing that you mentioned earlier was prompting. And I have found that ChatGPT often will try to, if you enter something, it'll try to give you what you want, like the yes man.
Yeah, sycophantic yes person.
Yeah.
Yes robot.
What does good prompting look like? Because I think that's a key aspect of using the computer correctly.
So I had a good experience. I really enjoyed actually a little chat session with ChatGPT the other week. I was actually asking about itself. I tried to experiment. So tell me about yourself. Let me know who you are. Give me your kind of make it have a creature. Even ask what its name was. What's your name? And it came up with a name. But then
what I found in that dialogue, it kept wanting to know what I was about, what I cared about, right? We actually together were able to build something that I was very satisfied with, but I had to engage and keep correcting it, and keep asking it, well, what about this? Well, that looks good, but this doesn't look good. So I would say it's an iterative process. I don't think there's this magical world of prompting, but there are things like using specific words, using words that are your style, because it'll basically match your style. So if you say things a certain way, it'll reflect back the way you say it. And so, that could be good. It could be maybe you have somebody else put the words in and then you can reflect with that. I think the main point is that AI is not some oracle, Delphi. It's not God. It's not, oh, AI said it, so it must be right. It's not. It's this massive interpolation. It's a language model. It does a really, really good job of creating language that mirrors what you're saying. It interpolates information from a lot of other sources, so it can inform you. It's creative, so it might misinform you. It might make stuff up. It sounds right, but isn't. So I think mostly it's yourself. You have to take with a grain of salt, not be so addicted that you think, oh, God has spoken to me now. The AI has spoken. I must follow it, and just engage with it. Use it as almost a tool for your own development. I think that's so. Prompting really is about yourself engaging and putting into it. You'll get out what you put in.
So like keep questioning.
Keep questioning. Yeah, keep asking better questions. In fact, I say this all the time. To me, AI helps you ask better questions. That's what it really does. It doesn't really give you the answers, but it helps you ask better questions.
If you were to give an ambitious outlook, what do you think K through 12 or higher education would look like 5 years from now?
Oh, 5 years versus 10 years. Well, I think 5 years, it won't look too different than it looks now, just because a lot of K through 12 education is about logistics and demographics. It doesn't change that rapidly. Right? You still have buildings, you have people, you have organization. Does anybody watch Veritasium? Got a YouTube channel, Veritasium? You do? Yeah, a couple people. Kind of a cool YouTube channel, actually.
Yeah.
He asked this question. It was really good. He gave a much better conversation about this just a few weeks ago. I saw it. He was like, well, we might be at the way education works in the sense that education fundamentally is it's like something you have to do, put work into. You have to put work into learning. You can't just go passively show up and have stuff thrown at your eyes, then you learn. That doesn't happen. Right? All of y'all have done that, and then you maybe pass the test and you've forgotten it completely in a week, right? But if you learn something, it changes who you are, and you'll remember that 60 years. I still remember my high school AP chemistry course, Le Chatelain's principle, right? Because I learned it, and it was like this aha moment that helped me understand the world better and change the way I thought about the world. But that's the learning process. The effort you put in, then get something out. Okay, that's effort. Who likes effort? I don't like effort. I could go to the gym more often, but I don't because I don't like it. Right? This is the thing. How do you do this? Well, maybe make it a social thing, get people together, do it together, and then maybe have somebody who's sort of the cheerleader or the facilitator, making sure it happens, the accountability person. So that's what we're doing now. We're probably doing that in the future too. What I hope happens is that we have much, much better learning material, because that's what's starting. In the past it used to be, if you didn't have a great, inspiring teacher, you just had somebody else give you a lecture. But now, you have the opportunity for the very best educators ever existed are now at your fingertips. But you still have to learn it. You still have someone to help you facilitate and be accountable to. So I think there'll be, what I hope also is that because of that, we'll be able to have more modularity to it. If I look down the 5 years, 10 years in the future, I'm hoping we get more modular curriculum, because one of the challenges is we think, okay, what does learning look like? Well, here's the curriculum, and here it is, and here it will be, and here it's been for 100 years, it'll be for 300 years. But I'm telling you that our curriculum needs to change. We are not preparing ourselves to live in a global world. We've got to change the curriculum. So how do you do that? I think we do that modularly, with more modular learning, more group, less, here's the one true path to education, and more, here are lots of things to learn, you have to choose from it. So kind of more electives, more modular learning, more group consolidation. I hope AI can help us with the logistics on that. So it's not, who's going to track all that? How do we make sure that's done? How do we make sure people don't fall through the cracks? So I hope AI can be used as an individual, like what I would love is every one of you, every new future student, this could happen within 5 years, essentially has an AI that is there to cheer captain. who's there helping them to learn, making sure they're learning and saying, and kind of pointing out if they're not, and then raising first the student. Yeah, I don't think you got that. I don't think you got this information. I think it's gonna, do you want it and care? Do you know this isn't good? This is it's kind of your personal paladin, who is your coach. I think that could be done. I think you could be assigned one when you start in your school, and it could be with you and learning from you and learning about you and helping you with your education the whole time. So I'd love to see that. That could happen in 5 years. So you can sort of have your own personal school counselor that's your own personal coach, cheerleader, AI agent. You can see that happening. Let's do that.
Yeah, that sounds really incredible. So obviously there's a lot of talk in society about equal access to opportunity. So do you think AI will create more access for everybody, or will it drive inequality?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, I'm concerned it'll actually amplify inequality, right? That's been the trajectory of a lot of technology innovation over the past, not because it's intentional, not because anybody wants that outcome, but because it just, if you are connected, you get even more connected. If you have access to AI, you have more access to AI. And if you don't, it gets worse, it gets harder and harder. So I think this is where we need that's where appropriate activism exists, I think, is to just make sure that the benefits of AI are being distributed to everybody. Like, how do we make sure that every student has access to some AI? Some of that's economic, some of that's just making the schools people go to has a big impact on whether they get access to these things or not. Some of this is learning. Some people exclude themselves from AI, and there's not a lot you can do about that if somebody wants to. Some people just go, no, I don't want anything to do with technology. I'm going to teach my own way. That'll happen probably. A lot of people just refuse to engage because it's just seen as the evils of technology. And to me, technology is neither good or evil. It's what you do with it that's good or evil, and that's what you have to guard against. It's just a thing. Technology itself is just a thing you can do something good with or use something bad with. But that's my perspective.
Yeah. So, of course, AI is great at producing information, but how can students use it to think better as opposed to just get answers?
Just get answers. That is an excellent question, Michael. I think actually the core of why teachers get nervous of students just using AI. Because if you're just using AI, it's just, oh, cool, give me an answer, cut and paste. Like all AI is a way for you to, here's a question, give it to AI, cut and paste back. That's not good. That's not helping you, that's not helping anybody. And then, well, there's a joke that the teachers take the output of what students do, cut and paste, give them a grade with AI too. That's like the dystopian future of AI-enabled education, where everyone AI is just fooling each other. Obviously, that's a waste of time. The real key is that engagement. That you have to come. If AI is just seen like, instead of a textbook, it's an AI prompt, but it's still the same. We've had textbooks for years. In fact, Socrates, anybody know the story about Socrates? Socrates is this brilliant guy from Greek past, right? Did you know he was against literacy? He was actually, he's one of the very early people that was anti-technology. In that case, technology was teaching people to read. And he was very against it. It's like, oh, it's terrible. Because if people learn how to read, they'll stop remembering oral histories. They'll stop reflecting, because that was how people passed on information about literacy. It was these long oral histories. Like you wonder about Iliad and Odyssey, those are massive books. Nobody had them written, they remembered them, right? They passed it on orally. So this has happened before, right, where people are like nervous about the impact it'll have. Well, it turned out that the effort you put into learning oral history you can still put into learning a textbook, like learning and reading something. If you just read passively, then yeah, it won't help you much. But if you're actively reading, meaning I'm thinking about it, well, I don't know about that. What does this mean? You're going to get a lot more out of it than if you're just stuck in the assignment. Believe me, I've done both. I understand. Sometimes you're just overloaded, so I got to get this done. But the benefit will come if you engage. So AI is the same. If you engage and you care and you're trying to figure stuff out, that's the more critical thing, not is it AI or not AI. It's where's your mind, where's your engagement, what's your effort.
So essentially, you have to, even once you've started working with it, continue to ask questions, continue to try to figure things out.
Ask questions, maybe try 2 different AIs. Maybe you're not just using Claude and Perplexity and OpenAI. Maybe you're asking a question and going, oh, that's interesting. Let me do a Google search. Let me look for references on that. Let me go read some papers about about that. Or, it's follow the references, follow the links, follow the, like, really let your curiosity guide you. And, go to YouTube, go to video chats, go to websites. I mean, this is where AI is not alone. It's not like this one thing that's sitting there. It's a tool to help you integrate massive amounts of knowledge. But to integrate that, you're integrating that into your own very unique, very important neural net. Like, that's the one thing I think, if you come away with anything, it's realizing how critical you are individually to this massive interconnected global ecosystem, because you are a very unique creature. There's never been anything in the world, and never will be anything in the world like you. You have a neural network, you have a brain, you have an embodied brain inside of a body that nobody else is. You experience life according to the way you experience it. That is not replicable. It is unique, and therefore you, as you interact with the world's knowledge, you can contribute something meaningful and authentic. Even if it's just your stories, even if it's just your feelings, the way you experience it, you can pass that on to the world in a way that AI will never do. So I think that's the main thing is value, recognize the value you have, and the opportunity you have to develop your value is by learning, by engaging, by improving your neural net, improving the skills you have, whatever they may be. And there's a wide variety of possible skills. Develop those things, develop those interests, those passions, those caring. You do that, man, what's awesome is that you love it. You end up with a lot of joy that comes reflected back to you in the things you've been able to share, but you also then are contributing very meaningfully to the community, the neighborhood, the world, like, just depending on the impact you have, it's a massive impact. So, like, AI is just a tool. You are what matters. You individually, every one of you, is unique and capable, and AI is there to help you make the most of who you are. And that's, I think, the thing you got to remember.
So, actually, you know what? There's a different question here that I really like. I'm gonna find out.
Okay, no problem.
This one sort of builds on what we were just saying.
Okay.
How do you recommend students start exploring AI in a way that builds real understanding and doesn't use it for quick hacks? So, like, similar question, but a little more.
A little more specific. Well, I would definitely, there's a lot of new tools emerging all the time. So I would say, step one, be curious about those new tools. And that's where you have an advantage because, you're naturally more aware of the emerging technologies. You're not stuck. Like, what happens with old people like me is you get stuck in a way of engaging with the world. We used to be bright and curious about everything, and we get, well, this is the way I do it. You have this opportunity to kind of, well, I haven't figured out if that happens. So go explore. So try new tools. Like I would say, try new tools. There's new things you can download your phone, there's new engagements, and try it. See what happens. I can take a video, I can do whatever application. And what you'll see more and more is all the applications you're used to using will have AI features. They'll start to have things like, oh, let AI help your picture be better, or let AI do this better. So just experiment with it. So one, be open to experimentation and try it, because there's a lot of trying it out right now. Some of it you won't love, and that's fine. You can talk about what you don't love and pass it along. Some of you think this is amazing, the best thing ever, and there'll be more of that. So try new things. Try several new things, and try cross-enabling that. I would say be wary and thinking about, okay, what's happening here? I've got my photos. Am I just sending all of my photos to some big AI in the cloud that's then I'm dependent on? Or is there some way for me to keep sovereignty or ownership of my stuff? Right? And right now that's a big challenge. That's the current path we're on, is we're actually slow, step by step, just sending all of our personal data into the cloud, into some big AI that's being trained, and it's going to help us by guiding us, but then we're not going to have any, you want to keep the ability, so even if you're doing that, have the ability to move it somewhere else. So try a couple of these services, not just one. So I would say, try a few. Don't have just one company you're using. Have a few companies you're using. Use Anthropic and ChatGPT. Use Perplexity. Use Google Photos and Microsoft. Use Google and Microsoft. So I don't know, diversity, keeping diversity in your providers, I think, is a starting point. And then, as it translates to you independently, there will be more applications that's kind of more local and sort of stuff. Those are some ideas. I don't know.
And then how do you think that teachers can create environments where AI supports students?
Oh, I feel very uneducated to answer this question. It's a good question. I used to be a teacher, more at the university level. I was a college professor for a while, and my kids love seeing the know too how to give a test, especially early on. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Surely you'll get this right. It's really hard. I think one is have patience. Like a lot of teaching is actually really encouraging and encouraging learning, encouraging people to learn. There's a lot of teaching is just that. It's a lot of facilitating learning inside of an organization. So I would say there are a lot of tools out there to help the students learn. Let them use them. And just, you are a responsible teacher to try to make sure people are learning. A lot of the real educator role, I think, is the certification of somebody who's actually learning something. Giving them that tough feedback, is that personal trainer feedback, is know that you're not really learning this, and you need to. That's the real role of the teacher from my perspective. It's not, you don't have all the knowledge as a teacher. You don't have the best lecture style. You don't have to. But you really is trying to. So, let the tools be used and share your passion. I think that's a big part of how you motivate learning. Well, you have to care about it. No one's going to want to learn if they say you don't, you hate the topic. Are they going to want to? So be passionate about what you like and share that passion. And then you let the students explore other tools. Don't get too worried if they're using a tool. But you've got to be able to certify their knowledge or other learning. So that's tricky because if you get a test and they're gaming the test with AI, it doesn't help. You sort of subverted that thing. So being creative in how you do that. My favorite way is to talk to somebody. Honestly, when I taught at university, I could just sit and talk to somebody for about 30 minutes after the semester, and I'd know whether they used material or not. And I could probably grade them based on that. They hated it. Students hated the oral interview form of grading. But it was pretty effective, actually, in assessing whether people really knew what the topic was.
From your experiences building tools like NumPy and SciPy, what skills or mindsets helped you in becoming a pioneer in that field?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I would recommend being a pioneer in any field. Pioneers mean you're out in the desert with no water and you're digging for yourself, right? It's not always the recommended path, right? You can also be, but if you are eager to move places forward in a way, and that's your passion, that's what drives you. I would say for me, it drove me because I just wanted things to be better. I just cared about how things were and I wanted to be better. And then I also loved the engagement with people. Like NumPy and SciPy came about because I started to share some of my early work, and then I got responses from people. Not just people in my neighborhood, but people from Estonia and Eastern Europe and Africa and all over the world. People would respond back. I'm like, this is amazing. I live in this global world. I never knew people. And they would respond, and I would have this engagement with people. So if I didn't like that, I probably wouldn't have continued with it. But I liked it. I liked that engagement, so it kept me motivated to try to keep doing more. So you have to really figure out what motivates you in order to, because it's going to take time. That's the other thing you have to recognize. I encounter a lot of people who, they do something, it doesn't take off immediately, and they go, oh, this is never going to work. I'm like, oh, how long have you been doing this? I have 3 months, and it's not working. 3 months. Like, anything that is going to have a massive impact, Python, huge impact. It was written in 1991. There's a documentary for Python coming out actually this summer. And I know Guido really well. And, his version, I didn't start using Python until 97, 6 years after it was created, right? Then the world didn't start using Python for science until NumPy, which is probably about 3 years after NumPy was written. So anything that has significance, you have to believe in it enough to get through that phase of nobody cares, right? And then eventually people do care, it may happen. So that's kind of just true of any pioneering thing. Now it's also true, you could have done this and nobody cares. And my point is, you don't even know if anyone's going to care for about 3 years. Now that's shortening now, so maybe it's 18 months, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year. So you don't even know. So just, first of all, you have to care about what you're being a pioneer in. Otherwise, you won't have the patience to see it through because you won't get enough feedback early enough. You actually have to care about what you're doing. So be a pioneer in things you actually care about. So go get passion in stuff. Or whatever it is, get a passion in something. For me, it was science. For me, it was medical science, actually. It was trying to, medical imaging. I wanted to help see information inside the body from ultrasound and MRI, and I needed computing tools to be able to do that more easily. So it was completely unrelated to what I was studying, but it was other thing that ended up becoming this thing. And nobody knows I developed this MRI system for elastography, right? Few people in Houston who use it for deep vein thrombosis, they know about that. But a lot of people know about NumPy because it was a side project that I just was my passion. I had enough patience, stubbornness, commitment to do it. So I think that's the key. Care what you're doing and recognize that anything worthwhile is not going to happen overnight. And so it's going to take patience and time. So don't get discouraged.
And then our final question before we open it up to the audience is, some people worry that AI gives unfair advantages to students who use it. Do you see this as a problem or an opportunity to rethink the way schools define success?
Yeah, we should ask AI what it thinks. It's a good question to AI, see what it says. So I think it can be a problem only if you don't adjust the classroom approach, right? Right now, it's especially early on, where you have an education system designed one way without AI existing, it can be a disadvantage. And so all of a sudden, you've got students who are applying it one way and they're not. I would say it's actually disadvantage to students who are doing that. Maybe in the short term, oh, they get a better grade. In the long term, they don't learn anything. But it can be a challenge early on. So I think this is why it's really important to lead as the teachers to figure out, because ultimately they're the ones that will know how to translate the curriculum they're trying to get across to the students, and so those policies and programs need to adjust. I think where it's challenging is where there's larger bureaucracies, like a teacher doesn't have much control, they're just implementing something that was 2 layers up, decided what to do. That becomes really difficult in there like right now, where a lot of iteration and adjustments are being made. More flexibility is needed at the classroom level, I think, to implement well. So I don't know some of the constraints that are there. So I would say right now, yeah, there probably are some disadvantages, but let's see how we can fix it so it's just a level playing field and it's just a tool, whatever it is.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you have this microphone on?
Oh, I don't know.
There's a button on there. Is it on the corner?
It's off, it says, but now it's not lit up.
Is it lit up?
It's not, but it
I think the
was.
mic is dead. Is
Yeah,
that
why
possible?
don't you give him yours?
I think it
right now,
died.
And then I'll switch.
But thank you.
up.
Either way, I was going to say,
yeah,
we can
sorry.
now sort of begin to move on to your guys' questions. Avnish is going to be walking around looking for people raising their hands.
Great.
Love this part. Excellent. Don't be shy. It's totally fine. Like, we're all friends here.
Hey, I was just wondering how you can justify the usage of AI when the environmental impacts are so overwhelmingly late.
Where is this? Who's asking this? Right back there. So I have a concern about the environmental impacts. So tell me more. What are your concerns?
Yeah.
You're concerned about the energy production?
Yeah, it's just like the physical hardware uses so much energy, so much water, that it's like kind of a drain of natural resources that I don't see as particularly sustainable.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, one, that's a really hard question to answer. Like, it's really, really easy to talk collectively about a big topic like that with very little information. Two, it's important. It's important to actually be concerned about it, but how do you make those judgments, I would say? Like, how do you decide when what's too much or not enough? Like, how do you decide that? Just generally, how does anybody decide that?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, how do you decide?
I don't. I think what you have to do as a society, you put constraints on it. Like, I think things like, oh, we only need to, like, that's the thing that's really difficult, is if you just sort of say, none of this can be done, that's a huge swath we make, right? With a ton of people that you're trying to affect with very little information. I think right now, it is appropriate to ask the question about, wait a minute, should we be, reallocating all of our electricity to producing more data centers? That's a good question. Like, I think it's a very good question to ask. I don't know. AI doesn't necessarily need lots of computation. Like, there's a lot of people who, of course, want that to be the case because they're selling data centers, right? They're selling power, they're selling power plants. Necessity can be the mother of invention. Like, I actually think we can have an abundance of energy very straightforwardly with research into fundamental approaches to generating that energy. Like, the way we're generating energy now is not the way we can generate energy in the future. Like, there's a lot of energy capability out there. It's just currently we're doing it in very particular ways because of the ways that somebody used to do it. So we actually need an economy and lots of people exploring that topic in order to actually produce the energy that the world will need. So so part of it is I think there's a hard question to answer. Certainly, I don't feel like anybody individually can answer that question. I think it's a good question to ask and something that has to be debated. But I also think AI isn't, like right now, AI isn't, there are a few people, I mean, that's a question for California to answer. It's a question for New York City, it's a question locally to answer. Like, well, I don't have enough energy to produce that, I can't do it. It's an economic question, fundamentally. How do you answer economic questions? Well, you don't do it from a single bureaucracy in one room. You do it by establishing laws, and then you let the economy evolve to figure out how to make it work. This is actually an example of the kind of thing, if you don't understand markets, you don't understand how property ownership leads to allocation of scarce resources, you can't even answer the question. You can't even talk about the question. That's what I would say. It's really, really important to learn. There's a paper written in 1920 by a guy named Ludwig von Mises. I think it should be everyone here should read it. Everybody in school should read it. It's called The Problem of Economic Calculation in the Socialist Commonwealth. It was a great paper. It was written at the time the Bolsheviks took over in Russia because they had a dream to make everybody wealthy. We just have this super desire. It's a desire everybody has because we want to make sure everybody's prosperous. And they said, oh, well, this is what we'll do. We'll get rid of private property. We'll have it all, we'll all be held together in common. It'll be great. And he's an academic, admittedly. He's not, he's not like everything. He just writes this paper because an economist going, wait a minute, if you get rid of ownership, you get rid of prices, because prices emerge. They're not fixed, they emerge from owners trading with each other. If you get rid of that, then you don't even know what to do. And so what's going to happen is you're going to have an economy that disappears. And that's what happened. He predicted what would happen, and nobody reads that paper, unfortunately. So I would say read the paper. It'll actually apply to this problem too, because it's an economic question. How do we make the world's energy work in a way that's healthy and helpful for everybody? And how do we make sure that, if it's damaging, if there's people who are suffering, that should be promoted. And we should talk about that. We fixed the problem with the ozone hole because of measurement and laws passed. We did. We need to do that. And if energy is actually making life miserable, we should make sure that's fixed. But we shouldn't say things that aren't true either. And unfortunately, that still happens. We have a lot of people fear-mongering on that point. And it's just not true. We don't have a problem with energy right now.
We got here in the middle.
What is that paper called?
It's called The Problem of Economic Calculation in a Socialist Commonwealth. Yeah, you can look it up. It's an academic paper. It opens up a whole topic of inquiry. It'll be really interesting, I think, worth reading for anybody. Now, there's a lot of questions it brings up. It doesn't have all the answers. I'm going to hear all the answers, but it's a topic that absolutely needs to be understood to really answer any question around allocation of resources, including energy. Go ahead.
So earlier you said that our jobs aren't going to be taken by AI, but by someone who knows how to use AI. So I know Duolingo is turning into an AI-first company where they're laying off all their contractors and saying AI can teach better. Do you think companies doing that is ethical?
Yeah, I think it's fine actually, because what I think is not ethical is to allocate resources in a way that don't create prosperity for everybody. If you think about, what are the jobs somebody should have? Does anybody know the answer to that? I would submit nobody knows the answer to that. What jobs should you have? Well, wait a minute, what's a should? So what's ethical is actually what allows individual agency. That's a good question. We can debate that. What does ethics actually mean? That's a really good topic for discussion. But I don't think it has anything to do with ethics at all. It's absolutely, for a company, they've got to allocate resources so they can survive, right? And in fact, if they can have people, and you don't want people doing work that's not productive for them, so they should do other work that is more productive for them, and trade with the economy that way. So again, I think it's the same question. Ultimately, if you understand how prosperity works, then you can AI can help prosperity grow for everybody.
So then what would you say to the people who have it laid off? How do you think that's going to change the marketplace?
Yeah, I think we should help them. I think in conjunction with this, what I would be very, very big on is helping people make that transition. Like I would love to see education become something that society helps people get throughout their life. But basically, you always have ability to kind of learn new skills and retrain. It's not just, oh, you want to educate all the time. Because essentially it's an education problem. It's a retraining problem. It's like, oh, this job for you isn't what the society needs anymore because it's not profitable for anyone to provide that job anymore. Right? That's what it's saying. If you're laid off from the job, it's because nobody can have a company that's working with you working that job. And because, you know why? Why do companies exist? Because other people buy their products. Right? It's the rest of the world telling us what companies should have. That's what's deciding whether a company exists or not. It's just somebody buying that product or not. That's what determines jobs. So if you're in the wrong place, like, oh, I'm not helpful anymore, you need to move to a different place that will be helpful, that transition is the challenge. So how do we help people make those transitions easily? That's what I would say. And that's where we can do things together as a society. Yeah, interesting. Like these are tough, just in my perspective on it, but I welcome them. They're fine. I'm really excited you all care about this kind of stuff.
Hi. So, how do you feel about like AI, like sources using stolen art to generate?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I think that is a problem, actually. The problem of kind of ownership, right? A lot of AI is kind of taking stuff that they don't have a right to take. Actually, one of my friends, my co-founder at Anaconda, he's currently working on an AI Commons project. And basically, we need better rules around this because the copyright, copyright came about and was formed in an era of just the printing press. Right? And there's actually a lot of really interesting ethical and legal conversation about what does it mean to have a copyright? Why do I have a right to tell you what you can do or not do with your stuff? Right? Because you have a thing, and I'm telling you, you can't give that to somebody. Right? How do I have a right to tell you what you can't do with your property? Oh, well, I guess because the information on it came from me, or the art came from me. So it's actually a really interesting question, is what do we all have a right to tell each other what they can or can't do? I mean, we could talk a lot about that. But right now we do have rules. Society, we have laws that say this is, if you create something, you have a right to it. And you have a right to tell people, at least for a time. It's actually only limited time, by the way. It's not forever. But for a limited time, you can tell people they can or can't use it. And right now, AI has violated those rules, I think. And so I think that's a problem. And we shouldn't just go, oh, no big deal. Like either change the laws or hold people accountable to them. I think that's real. Yeah, so I think there's things that need to be done. I don't agree with Sam Altman going and saying we should just get rid of all copyright. I can then, do what we've done in large cases. There are some of it's a little hard, but I think that's a real quick question. I don't have an answer. I think clarifying and then helping there be corpuses of information that are trainable. The people have said yes, you can use it for this purpose is one way.
And another question relating to art and jobs. How do you feel about like human creation in like an artistic sense being threatened to be?
Yeah, I think there's that is something I would be curious about. And I was talking to my friend here about. I said, go have AI write a poem, and AI can create. Actually, we just saw from Google Veo, right? It does these realistic images. Art is tough because art is a thing you feel with each other, and what somebody's art, what one person thinks is art, somebody else doesn't think is art. But that's actually the feature of it. We want an ecosystem of people able to experience the world. AI generally gives you right now kind of something that's more boring because it really doesn't have the richness of authenticity that human experience does. And so I think I'm more concerned about people kind of shoving that into our faces and I want to encourage other people to put authentic art out so people can experience the difference. But again, it's a challenging question because, like, do I have a right to create art that everybody must like? No, I don't have that. I don't have a right to that. I have a right to create art and then invite people to enjoy it. And I personally want to see people generating their authentic art and do a lot of that. I prefer a world like that.
In terms of like jobs, like artistic jobs like animators and...
Yeah, again, it goes back to the question of jobs. Like, what gives anybody a right to have any job? Like, I've asked that question fundamentally. What gives anybody a right to have any job? Actually, one point, and this is debatable, and many people here will argue with me, I know, but one evidence to me that you don't have an economic understanding is the way you feel about minimum wage. So we can argue about this later, maybe, but a lot of people have a wrong conception of minimum wage, and I understand why they have it. They want to protect people and help people. If you want to help people in an asymmetric market, promote advocacy. Minimum wage is just saying people who can't make money for the wage that they're being offered can now have no job. Like again, you have to ask the question, what gives any the right to any job? Ask that question. Find out what the answers are and what the kinds of answers are. It'll just change the conversation. Again, it won't solve all the problems. We'll still have debates. And we need to have those debates, those conversations. But you have to frame it in a way that is answerable. And right now we have a lot of conversations happening that are actually not even answerable. So maybe that'll help us. Maybe it'll help us undo some of these ways we frame conversations. That's what I'm hoping.
So I had a question about how much you think AI should be censored, because I know that certain AI models like DeepSeek can bend the truth to, for example, the government of China's will.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
also certain local AI models can
It's a great question.
generate instructions
Great
on how to
question.
build a bomb.
Yeah.
So how much
AI safety,
censorship
censoring.
do you think AI should have?
That's a tough question, and this is a good one for conversation. I don't think I have all the answers on this at all. I think we have to talk about it, right? Certainly, we have some laws already about dissemination of information. We have liability laws that allow that. I think some of that is just enforcing those laws are sufficient. On the other hand, I also think it's important to understand when you talk about censorship, you're actually talking about a community value system. And there is no, this is my hypothesis, there is no universal value system that everybody accepts. That's just true. Right? When it comes to value systems, we actually have a diversity of them. And we have different communities that feel differently about that. And so orienting the censorship regime to the community that's willing to accept it is the critical thing. There's a simple principle, it's actually, the more people you're trying to encompass in your rulemaking, the simpler and more fundamental, and simpler and easier to implement the rules need to be. Right? If it's a huge ecosystem, you've got a world government that everybody must follow, it better be a very small set of rules. And if you're talking about a small, commune of you and 30 of your best friends, you can have as many rules as you want. It can be very tightly controlled. But I think orienting AI to the communities that they serve is really critical. That gets back to my view, we need to take the technology and make it accessible to as many people as possible, and not just concentrate in the hands of the few.
All right, so we're all out of time. A huge round of applause for Dr. Olson.